So the type of help that we can get from abroad should not be to solve our problems on our behalf. I think the Afrikaner community has become a very good example of that. And we were sort of forced into that position because we've been so neglected by the government, used as a scapegoat for everything that's wrong with the country. Queued system. In America, 85% of income tax is paid by 10% of the population, so 1 in 10. In South Africa, 85% of income tax is paid by 1 in 30 people. And then on top of that, we have the social grant system with about half the country getting social grants. And then after your tax money, your own money is spent on funding programs that aim to discriminate against you. So we're heading in the wrong direction and we're sinking as well.
Guys, so this was actually a smart one by the Biz News boss, actually getting a short interview with Ernst Roets before the publishing of his interview with Tucker. I'm actually going to be feeding on that interview today and really understand Ernst Roets' fight in South Africa. And I think it's been an anticipated interview with Tucker, where he speaks about South Africa's challenges and all that. And Tucker has a really wider audience, US audience. So South Africa is now really beaming into the world. And all of the things with the farm murders and expropriation act and all of that, Malema's kill the boar and all of that. It's the ugly belly of South Africa seems now to be pouring out into the world, and I really didn't expect that this would be happening at this time. But anyway, Ernst Roets here in this video actually argues that half of the country, half of South Africa is on SASA. Disaster. I keep saying this all the time. And he says that South Africa is in the wrong direction, but sinking at the same time. Two negative movements at once. We're in a nation with 60 million people, almost 8.8 million, right? Yes, are HIV positive. We have 82 murders a day, according to most of the articles I read. It says that the unemployment rate is 33.3%. It also says that there has been 1,700 billionaires who have left the country. About last year, reported that there were 30,000 South Africans who decided to change their tax residency away from South Africa, which means a loss of taxpayers to really feed the machine of things like social grants, SASA, and what have you, government expenditure as well. Then also about 2,000 doctors unemployed, and now South Africa has lost PEPFAR. South Africa might lose AGOA. South Africa's US investments in South Africa, which are, according to Rob Herself, to the tune of, I think, $75 billion, if I'm not mistaken, or $1 million, and that US investment supports 400,000 jobs in South Africa. If the relationship between South Africa and the US continuously keeps getting sour, bro, I don't even really want to even think about what's the scenarios that that's propping up in my head, regarding the situation, especially if the unemployment rate rises beyond the 33.3% in which it has been pegged in the articles. But Ernst Roets breaks down these really scary statistics in his interview here with Alec Hogg, breaking down why he's trying to really push for a better system of management for South Africa, South Africa's businesses, South Africa's governance systems, and that South Africans deserve better. For 30 years now under the rulership of the ANC and now with the GNU, it seems that South Africa is getting more and more paralyzed, and the likes of this kind of guy are really worried that the country keeps going down. Let's quickly listen to Ernst Roets in this really interesting segment of the interview he has with Alec Hogg, and share your thoughts, guys. Share your thoughts. Let's have a robust conversation in the comments.
Well, I read once that Rupert Murdoch was accused of not having compassion with Africa, to which he replied that the problem is not that he doesn't have compassion, the problem is that he has compassion fatigue. And what he meant by that, and I didn't hear him say that, but what I gather from that is that you can help people in a continent and different nations and so forth, but at some point they need to help themselves. And I think the most important part of convincing others that you need their help is first and foremost showing that you can do things for yourself. You can find your own solutions. And so the type of help that we can get from abroad should not be to solve our problems on our behalf, but it could be tangible policies or actions to strengthen the solutions that we are already working on. And again, the most important way to do this is to build institutions. And so I am very Tocquevillian in my approach, with reference, of course, to Alexis de Tocqueville, who wrote Democracy in America in the 1830s. And I think the Afrikaner people are very Tocquevillian, although many Afrikaners haven't read Tocqueville or don't know who he was. But the reason why I say that is he traveled America in the 1830s. He went there to study the penal system shortly after the French Revolution. And he discovered, and to write a report about this, but he discovered that there are some things about America that's more important, some things developing in America that's more important than the penal system, and that's democracy in America. And what he meant by that is that the Americans he discovered of the 1830s, we can argue whether that's still applicable today, had a very, very strong sense of finding your own solutions to the problems that you are faced with. And it was very rural. There was a central government with very little practical authority or power. If a community figured that they need a school, they didn't write to the government and ask the government to build them a school. They got together in the town hall that they have built themselves, and they had a meeting and they said, guys, we need a school. What are we going to do? And they made a plan on how are they going to build a school for themselves, and how are they going to, who among them are going to be teachers. And that's just one example. Then we have other examples of similar institutions, whether it's social clubs, whether it's ways of maintaining law and order and so forth. And so the fact is that what made America great, according to Tocqueville, what would make America great, and I think what did make America great, was this very, very strong resolve of fixing your own problems and building your own institutions, believing in what they call the American dream, and believing that the way to achieve this is to roll up your sleeves and work hard and be involved with your community. And I do think, and I'm very proud to say, that I think the Afrikaner community has become a very good example of that. And we were sort of forced into that position because we've been so neglected by the government, used as a scapegoat for everything that's wrong with the country. We had no other choice than to become Tocquevillian or to perish. And I think there's some lessons that I think much of the rest of the world can learn from what we're doing, especially in the North, where people still believe the be-all and end-all of problems and solutions are elections. And we've gotten to the point where we think elections are certainly not irrelevant, but it's not the most important thing. You should vote in elections, but there are more important things than voting, and that's being involved with your community and being involved with practical, tangible solutions. This is something we discussed on during my interview with Tucker Carlson, is this bizarre situation we've reached as far as tax is concerned. Firstly, the tax system in South Africa is very skewed. The numbers I gave during that interview is in America, it's already a skewed system. In America, 85% of income tax is paid by 10% of the population, so 1 in 10. In South Africa, 85% of income tax is paid by 1 in 30 people. And then on top of that, we have the social grant system, with about half the country getting social grants and more than half either getting grants or being paid by the government, in other words, being employees and so forth. So we have a very skewed system as far as tax is concerned. And then your tax money also goes to funding these programs that aim to discriminate against you, to setting up, for example, this blacks only fund that the government is now doing, or helping the government push expropriation without compensation, or NHI, and so forth. And then after your tax money, your own money, is spent on funding programs that aim to discriminate against you, you have to use the money that is left to do the things that the government was supposed to do in the first place, by making sure that you are safe, that your life is protected, that your liberties are protected. And the problem with South Africa and the political system in South Africa is, first and foremost, that we are heading in the wrong direction. But, and that is something I said in my announcement video of my new initiative, which will be published soon, the fact that the ship is heading in the wrong direction has become less important than the fact that the ship is sinking. So we're heading in the wrong direction, and we're sinking as well. And I think we need to turn the ship around. We need to fix the hole and turn the ship around. And when I say the wrong direction, I mean the policy ideas that the government is trying to implement. And when I say sinking, I mean the collapse of our government departments, and service delivery and so forth.